Hello everyone, welcome to Kristine Szabo Raw. I am standing in my old house, well what's left of it after the Palisades fires that took it in January, and it's unbelievable. This for me is a really humbling and incredible lesson of hope. Last week I spoke about hope with my teacher, and we talked about where does hope come from? What do you do when you're in despair? How do you get out of despair? Because I tell you, every day there are challenges. We all know that. And some days we just feel despair. And how do we pull out of despair? And how we pull out of despair is through what we say in French, cœur, with courage, and courage comes from the heart. So cœur means heart, courage, courage. So we need to, when we're in despair means without spirit, désespoir, without spirit. We pull out of spirit, we come into spirit through our heart. And I'm sorry, I'm not speaking so fluidly because of obviously where I am. This is the first time I've stood here since the house burnt. And you can hear all the construction cleanup going on around in the neighborhoods. And I'm going to take you somewhere now. I'm going to walk through this as I talk. You know, I started Kristine Szabo Raw because I wanted people to not have to go through what I went through in my life. I didn't want to have to go through such despair that you don't want to live anymore, that you give up, because that's what happened to me. I got to a point where I couldn't take the pain anymore, and I couldn't find a way out. And it was, generational from my father who committed suicide. And as we go through this channel, we're talking about different tools and techniques that I learned. There's this still, I don't know if you guys can see this still stayed from my tree. It fell off. I want to show you something that I call magic and faith. Nothing made it in the house. Nothing. Except this. This was something I brought to this house. She is something I brought to this house. And she still stands strong. I'm going to tell a story about magic, because apart from people asking me, what do you mean by life happens for you, not to you? One of the biggest questions I get is, what do you mean when you talk about magic? What does that mean, magic? Well, I'm going to tell you a story of magic. When I moved into this house behind us, or what was this house was a gift from God. It was a little sanctuary gem that came to Matthew and I after Matthew was kidnapped, and I got custody of him, and we could move forward in our life in a healing way. This house healed me through PTSD, it healed me through adversity, and it was here to create my life's pie for peace and my new purpose in life. It was an incredible home. A couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, I fell madly in love, as I said before, and with a man who lived in Monaco, a Frenchman. And the love was so intense that even though I hadn't spent much time with him, I was absolutely certain that I had to move to France. I was certain. I was like, this is happening. I have to move, and there's no way about it. And people were like, you're going already? Like, how can you do that? I had this knowing that I had to go. Matthew and I had to go, and his dad had to go with us. And I was like, and people said, well, you're going to keep your house, right? And I was like, I had this knowing, no, I'm not supposed to. Like, I need to give up the house and take 100% leap forward. I had this intuitive knowing. And the strange thing is, when I met this other person, we can call him my partner, for the first time, when I first started talking to him, I said to him one day, I sounded crazy, but I said to him, I don't know why, but I feel like you are, in French, they call it a chevalier, a knight in shining armor. I feel like you're a chevalier in my life. And he was like, oh, I like the sound of that. That sounds really good. Who, of course, what man wouldn't like the sound of that? And fast forward, I moved to France with Matthew. Our relationship is an absolute, if I can be polite, a shit show. It was like, he had a complicated life. I had a complicated life, flying back from my career. We're having a hard time seeing eye to eye, communicating cultures, languages, emotions. It was so tumultuous. I can't even tell you, people, and I'm being very polite. I'm not going to get you into the nitty gritty in this episode of what went down, because that's not the point. The point is, in January, and I had been living in France now for over a year and a half. Our wedding was canceled 20 hours before because he had a prenup issue, and it was a mess, and it was horrible, and we separated, and then we had just gotten back together. And Guru Singh tells me one day, about a month ago, I had a vision that this man came into your life originally to pull you from the fire. That was his purpose. And I was like, wow. And a week later, he comes to me and he says, my wife came to me yesterday morning in yoga, and she said that she had a vision that this man came into your life for one purpose, to save you from the fire. And I was like, you have to tell Matthew. So I call Matthew. Matthew, come in the room. And Matthew's like, yeah, mommy. And I said, Guru Singh, tell Matthew what you just told me. And so he repeats the story. And Matthew goes, but mommy, that's what I said to you. I told you that already from the beginning, that he came into our life to save us from the fires. And I was like, you did? He's like, yeah. And I was like, wow. So now I've got these 3 divine confirmations telling me this. And it started to have me reflect about things in a different way. 45 minutes later, I'm about to finish the call with Guru Singh, the video session, and I get a bing on my phone. I look down. It was a photograph, the first confirmed photograph of this house that I'm standing in, the house that I was living in, burned to the ground. It was sent to me by a friend in New York who was following the fires. The timing of his message, the timing of the confirmation that this house actually had burned, combined with the most spiritual man that I know and his wife, the most connected people I know, my son, who I believe is divinely connected, confirming all of that in the same moment, it was true. It was that this life, that relationship, for whatever reason, had happened for me. At that moment, everything that I have lived of hardship with him for the last year and a half lifted from me. It didn't matter. And that's what we need to understand, is that when we're in life's shit and challenges and really shit feelings, we have to know, 1, that we have to wait, and we will shift out of it. We can do things that can help us move faster. We can do colon cleansing. is a great way to speed up feeling better about yourself. It really does. It helps take out toxins, emotional toxins, and it can give you like a quick lift. You can fast, okay? You can go on a fast. You can eat super clean and juice. You can sleep and rest and listen to positive meditations like Joe Dispenza and Abraham Hicks that I talk about all the time. You can listen to like Tony Robbins and Deepak Chopra and any personal development, spiritual teacher that's going to help motivate you and lift you. And we can really trust that, if you have strength, you can go out and take a walk. You can spend time with animals. Just all these little tips and tools that we have to get us through slowly these rougher moments. But what I really want you to know is that magic exists. Because that story that I just told you is one of 1,000 stories that I have. 1,000. And I'm not the only one. The problem is a lot of us out there, and I can say us because that was me before I went through the journey that I went through. I didn't make these connections. I didn't see these connections. I didn't recognize these connections. But we can start to recognize that even the hardest experiences of our life are there for a reason. If you think I'm speaking nonsense, then how about this? How about making this a philosophy, a personal philosophy, to pull yourself out of funky times? Or as just you know what? Why not tell myself that? I hope everybody's doing well. And to remember that in these moments of despair, these moments of without hope or far away from hope, that we can really tap into our heart. And you can ask yourself, I want to ask you this question now. When was the last time you felt hope? Can you remember the last time that you felt hope? And when you're feeling that and remembering that, can you hold on to it and start using that sensation, that memory of when you felt hope through your days and through your nights of when you're starting to feel hopeless? I do that. I'm starting to do that. I just learned that. I love you guys, and thank you for being here with me. This house was called A Muse Away. So why don't we say peace out and muse away? God bless.